Hello, and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the 6th grade concept of properties of operations. This is 6.70 Readiness Practice, the Proficient version. If you are interested in exploring the 6.70 Readiness Practice for the intermediate or advanced versions, or the Readiness Practice resource along with any other standard, you can find those by using the link in the video description. So we need to find two equivalent expressions, and we've got a hint here. Let's think commutative and distributive properties. Well, the commutative property is the order property, and so we can change the order of addends or we can change the order of factors because it works for addition and it works for multiplication. Doesn't necessarily work for subtraction or division. So I can use it with the multiplication if I want to, right? Because what I have is I have it 2 times, and then my second factor is this, we call it a binomial. That's kind of a high school term, right? Think of that 4y minus 7 as one thing. So what I could do is I could rearrange those, and I can simply say, let's do 4y minus 7, and then let's put the times 2 on the back end. So that's one way to do it. What if I wanted to switch the order of the terms inside of the parentheses? Well, I see subtraction there. But what I could do is I can rewrite this as an addition problem. So what if I did this? That's going to be 2, and then let's make it 4y plus negative 7. All right, so plus negative 7 is the same as minus 7. And typically we would not write plus negative 7, we would write minus 7. But now I've rewritten it as an addition problem. So I can do that down here. So I can do 2 and then 4y plus negative 7. And then I'm just going to swap the order on the inside. And that's going to be negative 7 plus 4y. I don't necessarily need the second parentheses now that my negative 7 is leading. So that is a different way that we can use the property of the commutative property, is which the order, both the factors and the addends can be swapped if it's addition. Now let's think of the distributive property. All right, so the distributive property is breaking apart, and that is a very important property for us to know because we'll be doing it, basically using it for the rest of our mathematical careers. All right, so what we do here is we take our 2, and then we're going to bring our 4y minus 7. And distribute means we take, if you have a number being multiplied by a term in parentheses, you can break it apart and then multiply that number by each of these terms separately. So what that means is we're going to take our 2, and we're going to multiply it by the 4y. And then we're going to keep that same operation. So since there's subtraction, we're going to keep that in there. And then we're going to multiply that 2 by the 7. Now it's a minus. That minus kind of goes with that 2y. That number is going to end up being negative, so it doesn't really matter whether I did a plus 2 and then multiply by negative 7. I could have done that as well, right? We could have done this, and that would have ended up being the same thing. As long as that's going to end up negative, we're good. So this would have worked. And then honestly, what we would want to do is we would want to simplify this, okay? So this is really 2 times 4 times y. And then we've got a 2 times 7. So I can actually combine my 2 times 4. That's going to make 8y minus 2 times 7 is 14. So that would be the simplified version of that. 8y and 14 are not like terms. That y is messing it up, so you can't simplify any further. So for our second problem, we need to write two equivalent expressions. And this time we just need to name the property used. All right, so we could use the commutative. We could use the distributive. I want to start with, I see this one right here, and I want to use the identity property because that's one we haven't seen so far. The identity property is the property that says, anything times 1 is itself, or anything plus 0 is itself. So it works once again with multiplication and with addition. And so since I'm multiplying by 1, we don't have to multiply by 1 because it doesn't change anything. Anything times 1 is itself. So I can take my property here, and I can say 2 times 1 times, and then I've got this 3 times b. I don't need that 1 because multiplying by 1 doesn't do me any good. So I can simply remove that because 2 times 1 is the same as 2. And I can leave everything else the same. 3 times b. So that would be the identity property. Anything times 1 is itself, so you don't really need it. Another property that if you want to do the distributive, right, you could distribute that 2 to the 3 and the b. That would be fine. Or let's look at another property we haven't used in this video, associative property. So the associative property is the grouping property. Now this works when you have a whole bunch of addends, you have a whole bunch of factors. In this case, I've got a whole bunch of factors. I've got 2, and I'm going to replace these with dots here. 2 times 1 times 3 times b. Now the parentheses in my order of operations tells me I need to do that first, but you know what? It doesn't really matter if I do the 3 times the b first or the 2 times 1, because everything is going to end up being multiplied together. It's all going to get smushed together. So what I could do is I can change the grouping, and I can say 2 times 1 times 3 times b. I'm just going to keep everything in the same order, but let's say I want to multiply the 2 times the 1 first. Nothing's going to change. It's all going to end up being smushed together. So the associative property lets you just group things slightly differently. So those are two different possibilities. I will say that answers may vary because you could use the distributive property. You could use the commutative property because I've got the order. So you could just rearrange the order of these factors. And once again, everything stays the same. So now I need to rewrite this expression two different ways. And specifically, let's use the distributive property. Well, all right, so let's start with 1/4 y plus 3. And what the distributive property means is I'm just going to take this 1/4 multiplied by the y, 1/4 multiplied by the 3. Seems pretty straightforward. How can I get two different ways to write this expression? Well, the challenge comes with the fact that I have a leading number. That 1/4 is called the coefficient. That's a fraction. So representing fractions, that's where I get to be a little bit different. All right, so really this means 1/4 and then times y. And then I'm going to add the 1/4 times 3. Now, here are some different ways I can show this. And this is where we need to understand there are different ways to show fractions. So we think about reciprocals, okay? So multiplying by the number is the same as dividing by its reciprocal. So if I divide by 2, for example, that's the same as multiplying by its reciprocal, 1/2. Cutting something in half is the same as dividing by 2. And 1/2 is just the reciprocal, or it's the upside down version of 2 over 1, right? And I did the inverse operation. So since I'm dividing by, or since I'm multiplying by 1/2, I can divide by the reciprocal. What's the reciprocal of 1/4? It's 4. So I could say, here's one version, I could say y over 4 plus, and then same thing. What is 3 sets of 1/4? 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. It's 3 divided by 4, or 3/4. So here's one version. Since I have the same denominator, you can actually combine this. You can take your y plus 3, and you can divide everything by 4. And this works as well, because really what you would do is you would keep this initial term together and just change the multiply by 1/4 to dividing by 4. So those are two different ways that we can do this. If you wanted to, you can do a y over, you could do the 1/4 y plus 3/4. Right, here's another version. You could just do 1/4 y, leave that like it is, and then change the 3/4. So there's quite a few different ways that we can do that. So if you are interested in exploring the 6.70 Readiness Practice resource for the intermediate or advanced version, or the Readiness Practice resource along with any other standard, you can find those by using the link in the video description.